The Islamic State group says it perpetrated the knife attack that killed 3 people in Western Germany. The terror militia's news agency posted a message claiming responsibility for the mass stabbing at a festival to celebrate diversity in the western city of Solingen. It said the slayings were, quote, revenge for Muslims in Palestine and elsewhere. But it provided no evidence for its claim. Police have detained a 15-year-old boy they believe knew about the attack in advance, but they're still searching for the man who carried out the stabbings. The state premier of North Rhine-Westphalia, Hendrik Wüst, North Rhine-Westphalia, where the attacks took place, earlier described the killings as terrorism. Here's some of what he had to say.
This attack was meant to spread terror. Terror among people celebrating peacefully together. They wanted to target communal celebrations, celebrations that are so typical of this city, more so than almost anywhere else. It's an act of terror against the safety and freedom of our country and our way of life. Celebrating together, even laughing together, even with strangers. This is our way of life here in North Rhine-Westphalia.
Let's go straight to DW reporter Aaron Tilton, who is in Solingen for us. Aaron, what's the latest where you are?
Well, we can confirm at this hour that the police are currently carrying out a raid at a refugee center here in the downtown area of Solingen. Now, we don't have many specifics other than the fact that they say that they have gathered enough evidence to send police into the refugee center, looking presumably for a suspect in yesterday's killings, which took place here in Solingen. And it's really adding to what is a very, very tense atmosphere in the city. You might be hearing behind me, there's quite literal storm brewing above the city, and there seems to be one brewing among the people as well. The atmosphere among the people I'm talking to is very tense. People are talking about fear and shock and horror after yesterday's attacks. And Solingen, unfortunately, in the past has been the scene of racially motivated violence, and people do assume that there was a racial motive or a component to yesterday's attacks as well. I've had people come up to me and blame the killings on the German government's lax or acceptance of over 1,000 or 1 million refugees in 2015, and other people coming and blaming it on racially motivated violence as well. So it's a really tense atmosphere in the city at the moment.
So, Aaron, do you feel a sense of anger sort of coming to the forth rather than fear and worry?
Grant, there's a great sense of anger. I've already had 3 or 4 people coming up to me and placing spewing baseless charges so far, just rumors about who could actually be behind the attack. Now, this latest announcement by the Islamic State would rather add fuel to that fire. I've had other people express their anger at the government for their policies as well, seeing that they're to blame for the killings. So right now, it really does seem like the rumor mill is taking over here in Solingen, and that's only adding additional fuel to the fire of the tensions that we're experiencing right now.
All right, DW's Aaron Tilton, they're reporting from Solingen. Aaron, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And for more analysis, I'm joined now by DW Chief Political Editor Michaela Küfner. Michaela, good to have you back. So now we know the so-called Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack. What do you make of it? What more can you tell us about that?
Well, clearly, the main suspicion now has to be that this is a terrorist attack potentially, and that will change the scope of the investigation. This was pointing towards this today when we heard from the state premier, Hendrik Wüst, as the first leading politician, saying that it was an act of terrorism. This claim of responsibility of IS, we are reading, is also in line with previous claims of responsibility, so it is seen as something that's valid. Whether this is a so-called lone wolf attack where somebody acted individually, that's still unclear. But we do understand that there's an ongoing search of premises of an asylum shelter in Solingen. There's an expectation that there might be some kind of arrest because after all, they are looking still, police are looking for this killer who is now a suspected terrorist. And that ups the ante in terms of the pressure on police, on the authorities to get control of this situation and to capture the man who, according to IS, was taking revenge for Palestinians and the killings of other Muslims at what IS described, the Islamic State described, a lot of Christians celebrating. And this was supposed to be a diversity festival, a celebration of 650 years of the city of Solingen, which was really deliberately an inclusive event where everybody was welcome. And now you have Islamist extremists, the Islamic State, potentially having really driven, well, literally a knife into this open society. And as Hendrik Wüst, the state premier, put it, he said, we will defend our way of life, we will stand for an open society. But right now, this is a very difficult situation for the community locally, but also for Germany, which has to prove that it can get, the authorities have to prove they can get this man and they can get the situation under control.
Yeah, I mean, you say it's very difficult for Germany. I want to get to that, but first, Islamic State claims it is responsible. We've had that in the past. Is that trustworthy? And does it really mean that now we know we talk of a terrorist attack?
This is something where we need to hear from the authorities here in Germany, who are now doing this very analysis, how credible this is. From experts I've seen quoted, and I'm not a security expert by any means, this fits with previous claims of responsibility. So that's where we stand right now. Let's see how these facts are established and how that turns out, whether this is firmed up. But it fits with what we heard from the state premier, who calls it a terrorist attack. So I'm pretty sure that there are more facts already on the table of those investigating this than we are seeing made public right now. And the big question now is how fast and whether the police is able to arrest this man who's at large and still very dangerous indeed.
Absolutely. And we just also heard from Aaron about the storm brewing, not just meteorologically, but also that people there are showing some signs of anger at how all of this has been handled. There's an election coming up in two big states in Germany where this could play a role. How dangerous is it in Germany? I mean, how many knife attacks? Is this something that is happening more often, or is this now something out of the ordinary?
Well, in cases of grievous bodily harm, I just looked at the latest statistics, and there indeed is a rise of knife attacks. It was from 5,200 something to some 5,900 within the space of 1 year between 2022 and 2023. We don't have the statistics for this year. This is something that is happening. There has been an increase. It almost is kind of it is a textbook example of what the far-right AfD says happens when people come from a Muslim background. And that's the cliche that reality now has to deal with. With elections in two far-right AfD strongholds taking place within the space of 7 days next Sunday. So it's a climate where politicians will have to tread very carefully. I mean, this is a wounded community. This is absolutely terrible that happened. I think it is beyond imagination for anyone who hasn't been through it, and I have not been through it, where somebody suddenly starts stabbing people. We have seen a warning from the authorities at the beginning of June that the climate for terrorist attacks, potentially mostly from an extremist Islamist background, is very high in Germany in June indeed. That didn't get that terribly much coverage, But now this is where we stand right now. And emotions are running very high. And the question is whether people really have the patience to really break this down, the exact circumstances of who this man is, what his history is. So this is something the authorities have to do the investigation, and the politicians need to reassure the public that they can control this. Whether a ban on knives will do the trick, I very much doubt that.
All right. DW's Chief Political Editor, Michaela Küfner there. Thank you so much.